If you like Cinderella stories, wait until you hear this little-known Jewish version set in ancient Egypt where the prince is Joseph from the Bible, or of the Technicolor Dreamcoat if you're a theater kid like me. This is the story of Asenath, who is canonically Joseph's wife, even though she's only mentioned 3 times in Genesis in the Bible. Mainly that she's just the mother of his sons. But in Jewish folklore, there's a whole other story about her. One version that is mostly about conversion, and the other one that involves incest. We're gonna go with the less upsetting one first. The story takes place when Joseph is a big, important dude in Egypt. It's during the 7 years of plenty that he predicted that the Pharaoh would have. Asenath is the daughter of Potiphar, one of the Pharaoh's magnates, or in some versions, a priest, but whether or not he is that Potiphar from the Joseph story is not clear. If you're not familiar, that Potiphar is a rich dude who buys Joseph when his brothers sell him into slavery, and then his wife tries to seduce him, and when he says no, she accuses him of attacking her, and that's how he ends up in jail, where he interprets the Pharaoh's dreams and becomes the big dude he is now. Asenath is incredibly beautiful, and it says when she turns 18, all these men want to marry her, which is nice that she's 18 in this story. There are other stories where she could be younger. She rejects all proposals of marriage. Instead, she lives with 7 maidens, all who were born the same day as herself, in a magnificent palace where she won't see any men. Joseph tells Potiphar he's gonna come visit him, and so Potiphar tells Asenath, hey, I want you to marry this dude, it'd be a good match for you. But she is horrified. She's like, you want me to marry a man who was once a slave? Fellow that attempted to violate the honor of his mistress and in punishment was thrown in prison. So that part makes me think that it's not like her mom that happened to. And also that's a legit reason for not wanting to marry him if you think he's actually guilty of doing what he was accused of. Which honestly, in the Bible, Joseph is never like found innocent of that. He just kind of gets forgiven when he interprets the Pharaoh's dreams. So like, no one really cares about that crime. Kind of like today. So she's like, hell no. Potiphar's like, okay. And so that night, though, she decides she wants to sneak a peek at Joseph while he's dining with Potiphar, and he's so hot. He was so transported by his divine beauty and indescribably noble carriage that she burst into tears, thinking, oh God, what have I done? I guess if she believes he's guilty, she doesn't care now. Because Joseph is just so hot. I like to picture this version. The story says his supernatural beauty had always fascinated the noble Egyptian ladies, but he always rejected all of them. Mostly because he wants to marry someone who is of his people. He doesn't want an Egyptian Gentile woman. So Asenath goes to her dad and she's like, I totally changed my mind. I want to be with him. And so the dad is like, hey, will you meet my daughter? And he's like, oh, she's a Gentile. And he's like, please. So they get some time alone together. Asenath desired to kiss Joseph, but he warded off the intimate greeting with the words, it is not meet that a God-fearing man who blesses the living God, eats the blessed bread of life, drinks the blessed cup of immortality and incorruptibility, should kiss a woman of a strange people. For you bless the dead and unprofitable idols and eat the putrid bread of idolatry. So this makes her cry, not surprisingly. And so she goes to her room. She dresses herself in sackcloth and ashes, like covers herself with ashes and this rough, like goat hair cloth that is an ancient way of mourning. Prays and begs Joseph's God to forgive her idolatry. After 7 days of doing this, an angel appears to her. He tells her, take off the sackcloth and ashes, put on your nicest clothes, and she does. And then he brings her this meal. One of the things he feeds her is honeycomb from heaven. It had been produced by the bees of paradise and was the food of angels and God. I don't know, man. I want to see these bees of paradise. I want some heaven honey. She eats of the honeycomb and he's like, all right, from this day forth, your body shall bloom like the eternal flowers in paradise. There's gotta be flowers if there's bees. Your youth shall never fade and thy beauty never perish. And you will no longer be known as Asenath, but as the city of refuge. The angel leaves and she washes her face and presents herself to Joseph, who like doesn't even recognize her because she's glowing with the spirit. She's so much more beautiful now. And she's like, hey, I officially converted. This angel like converted me. So they get married. They feast for 7 days and 7 nights with the Pharaoh's blessing. And during the 7 days of wedding festivities, the people were prohibited under penalty of death from doing any manner of work. Like, you better celebrate this marriage and not work, or you're gonna die. If you're like, I don't really get how this is a Cinderella story. According to Graham Anderson, who wrote Fairy Tale in the Ancient World, it checks important boxes. It has a persecuted heroine who covers herself in ashes. She receives counsel and transformation from a magical or heavenly being. She ends up married to the prince of that culture, and she is identified by a piece of jewelry or clothing. And if you're like, wait, you didn't tell me about that piece of jewelry or clothing, I haven't yet, because it's in the incestuous version. In that version, Asenath is not Egyptian, but is actually ethnically Jewish because she's from Joseph's family. Her mother is a woman named Dinah from a story that is in the Bible, though not often talked about. In the Bible, Dinah is Joseph's sister. Remember how he's got all those brothers from Leah and then only he and Benjamin are from the wife Rachel? Well, she's the last child and only daughter of Leah. Her story in the Bible is just that she is abducted by 2 Canaanite men and assaulted. This picture calls it the seduction, but yeah, that doesn't look like a seduction to me. And it isn't in the Bible, it's violent. In the Bible, the whole purpose of that story is that her brothers get revenge on the Canaanites and it causes a bunch of problems. You never find out what happens to Dinah, if she ever gets married, if she ever has kids. And that's part of what a lot of Jewish folklore and rabbinic traditions do, is they try to fill in the gaps. And so in their version, what happens is that Dinah gives birth to Asenath, like in the wilderness, the daughter of this union, and puts a ring on her finger that has Hebrew words on it, and then an eagle comes and picks her up and takes her to Egypt and drops her in Potiphar's lap, basically. And then Potiphar and his wife, and again, we don't know which Potiphar it is, raise her as their own. And that's how she becomes Egyptian royalty. But she's really ethnically Jewish, as I said, and Joseph's blood, because if we go with this story, she's his niece, and he marries his niece. You want to feel a little bit better about it? She's only his half-niece because Leah wasn't his mother, Rachel was his mother, and he and Dinah just shared Jacob as a father, but still. Either way, it's a really cool story, and if we consider it a version of Cinderella, it's probably one of the oldest. I think it's a cool story, and I think that both Asenath and Dinah could have been in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I mean, it's guy-heavy anyway. Could have added a couple more girls. Maybe a cool duet.